What caused this cloth on this doll to move? Is it haunted? So let's see what questions we have only on Paranormal, True or False. It is free to subscribe. Please subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thank you. Is this a poltergeist in this hotel room? This gentleman has checked into a hotel room and he starts recording talking about how that bathroom door keeps closing on its own. So he takes us over to the bathroom to show that there was nothing on the floor in front of the bathroom. And then he opens up the door. Now he doesn't pan the camera up or down to see if there's anything above the door or below on the floor to see if maybe something was rigged in those areas. But he does start to show us how it doesn't close easily. So it's not on a loose hinge, it's not closing with a very light touch. So who or what closed that bathroom door? Was it closed by a ghost, a poltergeist, or was a string rigged at the bottom of the door or at the top of the door and it was just simply pulled closed? So this is my house and this is a bifold door and it just appeared to close by itself. There's nobody else in my house. There are two cats, but they are in the bedroom. So how did I close this door when obviously I'm not close to it? Can't see the top of the door, but you can see the bottom of the door. Do you see the hook? Fishing line is hooked around that hook, and I simply pulled on that fishing line from 4 feet away. But you can't really see the fishing line, can you? And I could have cropped the footage before the hook was ever visible, and you would never have seen my setup to close this door. So this is all about, do we trust this guy or not? Do we trust him when he says he's alone? Do we trust him that no string or any other mechanical feature was used to close that door? I haven't seen enough of his work or his videos to know one way or another. I just know that this type of phenomenon is the easiest to recreate with just using string. Have you guys seen a lot of his videos to know whether or not we can trust him, that this is legitimately paranormal? Let me know in the comment section below. I do respect the fact that he did go over to the door, try to do some testing on it to see if it closed easy. And he did show us the floor outside of the door to show that it wasn't being faked. Is this a ghost of a witch? We will suddenly see a black figure flying around in front of this camera. It reappears on the left. Is it a ghost? Is it a witch? And once again, we have a bug on the lens that's being passed off as paranormal. Is this doll possessed? So this man is talking about this doll, and he's trying to show that there's nothing attached to this doll, and he's just setting the doll in front of this camera. And we can see where his hands are when the fabric on her right shoulder goes from being scrunched down to puffing out. Now, we wonder, there be string attached? Because he moves to that side of her. So is there just string we can't see? Is there some type of memory foam or a wire underneath the sleeve of that dress? And it just returns to its natural form. It's possible it's a hoax or staged, but I really do think this one is real. It is odd, and just odd enough to be plausible. Is this kitchen haunted? The camera keeps catching this cabinet door opening and closing, seemingly by itself. Is a ghost doing this? What's on the floor? Nothing. It doesn't look like anything else is vibrating or moving. Now, all of a sudden, on the counter, something starts moving. The mug in the center of the frame. Sorry, it's not a mug, it's a can. What is moving it? Now we'll see the paper cup and the can move. So again, this activity is actually pretty easy to recreate with string, but is a string being used? Do you see how much the camera is moving? I will say when I freehand my cell phone to record me moving objects with a string, I find that I do tend to move the camera with my body for the same motion that I'm pulling that string. And I have had to redo the footage because I've moved my body in sync with that string. And with as much movement as it takes to actually open and close that door, the camera is kind of moving with that movement. So that camera movement kind of tells me that potentially they're holding the camera with their left hand and yanking that door back and forth with a string with their right hand. Now we're not going to see as much camera movement with this can because it's not taking the same amount of force of moving something back and forth. So the fact that they were so wishy-washy and back and forth with the camera when it was aimed at the door, but then when they moved up to the can, it stabilized, that does tell me that this is staged and it's just a hoax. So if anybody wants to learn how to fake paranormal using a string, always be aware of your body movement when you're holding the camera. It's one thing to capture true paranormal and have your phone shake because you're scared or nervous. It's another thing for your body movement to swing, much like you're swinging that cabinet door. But thanks for trying to fool us. If you don't believe me, did you catch how I pulled back the camera as I was pulling back on the door? It was very subtle and only at the beginning of the clip. And I slowed down the footage so you could see it. And that's what I'm talking about. When you're pulling something, invariably your whole body gets involved in it. So always watch how the camera is moving in conjunction with the object moving. Is this door possessed? So we see this employee enter this room and then we'll see him come back out and walk away. But the door opens again. He goes back and checks it, and apparently he deems that it's locked. Who or what opened that door? Is this the type of door where the locking mechanism is on the inside? You can open it and leave, but you can't turn around and go back into it without entering a badge or a key code or something of that nature? So is this just a case of somebody is still in that room, started to leave, but then changed their mind? Or is this paranormal? I don't think we have enough information to know one way or another if this is paranormal. So for me, it's inconclusive. Is this light haunted? In the center of our frame, we will start to see the hanging light start to move from one side to the other. Nothing else is moving to give us any indication that the house is vibrating, which rules out train, plane, earthquake. However, is there an air vent on the other side of the Christmas tree or on the floor that would cause that to sway back and forth? Is there a mouse in the attic that is chewing on the wiring and that's causing it to move back and forth? Well, we definitely know it's moving because the dog reacted to it as well as the human being is reacting to it. So I know that it can be recreated just using string, but I don't think the dog would react to it because their ears would follow that string to the person pulling it. So even though a string could be used, I don't think a string is being used. But because I can't see the entire environment to see where the air vents are, I can't rule this as paranormal. So it's another clip that is inconclusive. Is this a shadow person? The camera operator calls the child into this room, but a shadow person also entered the room. The shadow is shaped much like this little girl. I feel like there's another light source that we can't see that captured the little girl's shadow because it's moving at the same pace she's moving and then it disappears when she gets into this doorway. So I feel like she might have passed by a nightlight that's plugged into a lower wall socket. As creepy as this is, yeah, I think it's just her shadow being cast by a nightlight. It looks seriously creepy, that's for sure, but I'm not convinced it's anything but her. Is this a ghost playing peekaboo? Center bottom of our frame, we see a dog crouch and start barking at something that was off camera on the left-hand side. We see behind the dog that the blinds on the window are completely closed. Now they're completely open. So the TV's off, the blinds are open, and the dog goes back into the crate. The man goes over to the window and starts on his right-hand side and starts panning the camera, and we see something. What is playing peekaboo around that corner? Well, zooming in doesn't help. Could it just be a black hat that somebody dangled out there on a pole? Could it just be someone pulling a prank? It is the area that the dog was barking at. So the dog actually does add credibility to this clip. He walks over to the area and apparently there's an audio clip right here, but I don't evaluate audio clips. So because of the dog, I think this one might be real. Is this picture haunted? As this camera is pointed towards that picture, it starts to move from side to side, swinging back and forth. Nothing else appears to be moving, so that rules out house vibration from trains, planes, and earthquakes. But what is causing that picture to swing like this? Could it be from the air vent that's right there? It's possible because that air vent is angled that direction, but we don't know if it's on or not. Could a string be used? Is this being staged? Is it a hoax? Is it a prank? Is there somebody on the other side of the wall? Well, I don't think they could be knocking on the wall or banging on the wall because it would cause that other picture to move. Now, there could be a mouse inside of the wall, and that mouse may be chewing on whatever's, nut or bolt or whatever that's holding this picture frame to the wall. I know I tend to use penny nails to hang pictures, which could very easily be moved back and forth inside of the wall. just because there's no grip to a penny nail. He decides to leave the room, and he goes over and he opens up the door, and then he steps out into this breezeway with stairs. He sees a shoe on the floor there, and then another shoe a few steps down. Don't know exactly what's going on with that. But then he hears something behind him, and it startles him, and he goes back into the room, and he sees the picture frame has fallen. What has caused that picture frame to fall? I'm just not convinced that this one is paranormal. Could be an air vent, could be a mouse in the wall, it could be just the picture frame itself wasn't hung correctly. Maybe when he opened his door, that caused a vacuum. That was the final straw for that picture frame. What is this creature in this pipe? As this camera is pointed down this pipe, we can see some spider webs right there in front of the lens. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to see what else could be down here. What creatures call this pipe their home? The pipe doesn't look like it's more than maybe a foot in diameter. Not really large enough for a human being to crawl in there. But then the camera zooms back and we see two yellowish green eyes looking back at us. What creature was that? Kind of reminds me of eyes that are typically on a monkey or something like that. It's definitely a predator and not prey animal because it has that monofocal vision of having the two eyes on the front of its head versus eyes on the sides of its head. Could it be a cat? Could it be a dog? It definitely got closer. And this is pretty much where, when it gets closer, that is definitely your cue to run. So even though we can't see its body, we do know it's a predator, and it could just be a black cat, a black wolf, some other type of dark colored animal. The camera light is not illuminating enough of the area for us to see its body. But just because all we really see is yellowish green eyes doesn't mean we shouldn't run. And it doesn't mean it's paranormal. What is this dark figure? On the side of the road, we see something walking towards the road. What is this bipedal humanoid? Is it a Sasquatch, a Yeti, a Yowie? Is it a skinwalker? A shapeshifter? Is it dangerous? Is it a human being in a costume? Is it a hoax, a prank? Is this staged? Is the camera operator in on it? I'm not convinced it's paranormal, supernatural, or a cryptid. It could just be a prank on passing drivers. So I don't know if the flashlight is separate from the phone or not, but all of a sudden, on the other side of that shed, we see a couple of glowing eyes. It looks like it's a humanoid shape. Kind of has the head shape of Spider-Man. What is this monofocal vision predatory creature? Is it some sort of a cryptid? Is this just a hoax, a prank, or staging with someone in a costume? Is the camera operator in on this? Is it living? Is it dead? Is it dangerous? Again, I think this is another hoax with a human being in a costume. I'm not convinced it's paranormal. If you agree or disagree with my analysis, please leave a comment below. You will find links to social media platforms for this channel as well as for Jim Riley in the description below. Be safe and don't investigate alone. If you appreciate this type of analytical analysis, please subscribe. And remember, question everything. Thanks for watching Paranormal, True or False.